Hello and welcome to Laytechs Weekly, episode 20th January 2021. Laytechs Weekly is brought to you by Laytechs, your protection from tech ignorance. My name is Sean. This week's news of the week: Razer, R-A-Z-E-R, the hardware maker, made the smartest N95 mask in the world. The gaming hardware maker just released a reusable N95 mask, codenamed Project Hazel. Glossy outside shell, made of waterproof and scratch-resistant plastic, which is transparent for lip reading and facial cues. They also have disc ventilators on the side, which has not yet been certified, but will be certified to N95 standards. There are also microphones and amplifiers to make speech easier to hear as well. And they're working with Laytechs to provide a better, surround experience, which is quite interesting because when you look at it, right, masks have evolved to a point where it's becoming a necessity, like clothing. And company like Razer has come out to build a very smart mask. And so on one side, it's good because you think if this continues on for maybe another year or two, then it makes sense and they can profit out of this investment that they are building, the cost that they put in to build this thing. But let's say the vaccines come in and everybody gets vaccinated, and then all of a sudden the whole thing goes off and nobody needs masks anymore, and Razer will be just, damn, I have this thing and I got nowhere to sell it, no one to sell it to. They will probably keep it for, the next pandemic, perhaps. So the product is actually still waiting for approval from the CDC in the US and a lot of other versions of the CDC across the world as well, and we should see it off on the stores very soon, hopefully before the vaccines come in, so the geeks can start wearing it and showing it off and being cool at it. Samsung S21 first reviews, the matte back. If you haven't seen the new Samsung S21, check it out. There are a lot of reviews around. I checked out MKBHD, I checked out The Verge, and here are some amazing things about it. It's got a matte black finish at the back. It's plastic for the S21, but for the Plus and the Ultra, they're actually glass, but the matte black makes it look like it's aluminum finish. I love the camera bump. They have gone to a point where they're integrating the camera bump into the into the phone, and not just being like an afterthought addition like all other phones are doing. And at the side, it kind of melts in with the aluminum finish, and it's very clean. It's like diamond cut. It is, I think, I wouldn't say it's the most futuristic looking phone around, but it is damn futuristic. I think at this point, the iPhone 12 just came out and looks exactly like the iPhone 11, which looks exactly like the iPhone 10. And the only difference being the side, which is flat, which looks like the iPhone 4. So technically, iPhone has not had a new design for a very, very long time. And because the new iPhone is going to be the S edition, there will not be any hardware upgrades. Visual upgrades, aesthetic upgrades. That's the key. That's the best word to use. They will not be having any aesthetic upgrades. You will still be seeing the same looking body for the iPhone 12s, and iPhone really needs to refresh their design. It's looking so dated. But in any case, let's come back to the Samsung S21. The Ultra has the ability to shoot videos, here comes, with multiple cameras at the same time, and use onboard and external mics at the same time. I mean, this is wow. If you're shooting on multiple cameras, you don't have to trigger one camera and just shoot with one, right? You can shoot with multiple, so you get different shots from different zoom range at the same time. It's just brilliant. And the fact that you can record external mic and also onboard mic. Imagine you can take sound from the far surrounding and also in when people and also whoever who is speaking with the external mic, and that creates so much more content for you to build proper videos with. The Ultra Sports QHD OLED screen, 6.8 inches, with an adjustable refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. So now the 120 Hz work with QHD, whereas the last one does not. There is a 5000 milliamp battery, which gives out a lot of juice. Front camera is 43 megapixels, so now your selfies can look amazing. Okay, I'm shooting this video with the iPhone 11, and I'm using the rear camera, and I have to attach the watch to see where the viewfinder is going. With 43 megapixels on the selfie camera, I can flip it around and use my front camera, and it will look better than this. This is amazing. There is no Bixby button, RIP Bixby. We don't need that button. The last time I was using a Samsung phone, I used to reprogram the Bixby button to do something else besides that. And no micro SD storage, unfortunately, but I think we kind of have been moving away from micro SD. Micro SD was a big thing when we used to store a lot of photos on board. Now photos are all in the cloud. We used to store a lot of MP3 songs. We don't anymore because we use Spotify. We may probably used to store a lot of videos. We don't anymore because we use Netflix quite a bit. So makes sense to remove the micro SD and make a little bit more space for the larger battery. And unfortunately, in the box will not come with power bricks and no earphones. Thank you, Apple, for making life worse for everybody. There is, however, S Pen supported with the S Pen software, the hover thing where you get the extra commands to do all the S Pen stuff the Samsung Note can do, but the S Pen is not included, and there is also no slot or silo for the stylus, which means that you have to buy a separate casing that docks the S Pen and also a separate S Pen along as well. Samsung says that you can use all the old Notes, I think up to a Note 3, all the S Pens from up to Note 3, it works with them on this phone. So if you have something old, don't throw out the old Note with all that old S Pens yet. You can still repurpose that for this new model if you are interested to get the S21. All in all, it's a pretty amazing device, and we hope that it can actually perform as well as the initial reviews, because it is still quite new. They're still very limited on the field testing as of this point yet. Windows 10X, first impression. Watch out, Google, Chrome OS. Windows 10X is coming for you. Windows 10X was supposedly to be built on dual screen devices due to supply issues and possible demand shortages of COVID. I think early 2020, they made a pivot and they moved ahead to build it as a super lightweight Chrome OS competitor instead. It automatically syncs with your OneDrive into a simpler file manager app that feels more like an iPad than Windows 10, so which means that the file manager isn't exactly very powerful for you to manage files. It's just for you to extract the files from OneDrive and then sync it back into OneDrive. So if you really want to do like powerful file management, drag drop here and there, you may want to use a full-fledged Windows machine instead. It is quite a pain to perform the file management as per a lot of reviews that has been going on. There is a demo, and based on this demo, it also reveals a sleeker and simpler build that focuses on always connected browsers and apps rather than traditional Windows 10 compatible and legacy apps. It looks a lot more like Chrome OS. It's very simple, it's very fast, and it's very mobile-ish as well in terms of the UI. You must sign in with a Microsoft account, much like Chromebooks with a Gmail account. So you probably get a Hotmail or Outlook account. The start menu is very minimal, and the taskbar icons are actually center aligned, which feels a lot more like Chrome OS rather than it being left aligned. And systems tray is replaced with an action bar. If you use Mac OS, on the top right side, you get this action bar where you pull down, and you get a lot of controls here and there. So they are taking this and carrying this over to the Windows 10X, which feels a lot more mobile friendly as well. So if you they're kind of getting ready for tablets. If tablets are using 10X, it kind of works as well, because It has bigger icons, simpler, it feels more like a mobile device. So here's the kicker, right? Windows 10X will not come with existing devices. It will not come with Windows as well. So think about this. Windows has always been about Windows, in a sense that Windows being you have one screen, you have multiple windows hovering around for multitasking. For Windows 10X, there is no Windows. They only have full screen apps. Perhaps this will be re-enabled later on, but version 1's demo shows that only full screen, so it feels a lot like iPad. You do have a snap to site, which feels more like iPad as well, but you don't get multiple windows and doing a lot of multitasking work. So it's giving us a lot of feel that it feels a lot, it has a very tablet-ready environment. It does not right now support legacy apps, but web apps are there whenever applicable. So for example, just head to the website, like Spotify, hit install on the top right side of the browser, and you get a browser page saved and works like an app. That's how web app works. Microsoft says desktop applications are coming. First devices releasing, which is this year. We will see the first devices coming up. I think they will come in, I guess, sub 1,000. No, it won't be sub 1,000 ringgit. Maybe sub 1,500 ringgit. You know all those old netbooks with Intel Celeron and all that. That will probably be converted to Windows 10X because it works faster than those netbooks. And also tablets. Perhaps there will be a lot more tablets coming up with enterprise style tablets that will be using Windows 10X as well. The first release will be later this year, only available on new devices. So you can't actually find this. I mean, you may be able to find a side-loaded version and put it onto your existing computer, like what Chrome OS and Chromium OS is doing. But at the moment, we don't have it yet. I am quite looking forward to this. Windows 10X. Apple 2021 rumor by Matt Gurman of Bloomberg. Matt Gurman, which is quite a famous person in Bloomberg, who drops a lot of Apple predictions that kind of happens. There is a very high prediction. There's a very high success rate in his predictions. He dropped another one earlier. I think it was earlier this week actually. And these are what he thinks will happen for 2021 for Apple. In the laptops scene, there will be a 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro with silicon. I think M1X, I suppose. Whether or not they come with dedicated or discrete GPU is still unknown, because 16-inch is for power users, and I think it will make more sense for them to use dedicated GPUs instead of discrete ones. But if they believe that M1X is powerful enough to have the GPUs be integrated within the processor itself, then discrete it is. Micro LED may come to new displays. Micro LED is Apple's new LED, which is not exactly OLED. OLED is a technology where every single LED pixel has its own light. Micro LED just means that it's not a single one, but it's a range of it. So it does provide more color accuracy, darker blacks and brighter colors and more vibrant colors and all that. They will be coming to new laptops, but it's actually still way better than the screens that we're having right now, even if it's not as good as OLED. There may be return of MagSafe. Apple is really going on circles on this peripherals and all this connection ports thing. From Lightning to MagSafe to USB-C. Well, Thunderbolt is USB-C. And then back to MagSafe again. If you don't know what MagSafe is, the older MacBooks used to have this magnetically attached charger that you can flip it open. So if let's say you accidentally snag your leg onto the cable, what happens is it just flips open instead of you pulling your entire laptop to the side. They have brought back MagSafe for the iPhones, which is kind of like a Qi charger but with a magnet. Works a bit like your Apple Watch if you have one, so it attaches magnetically. And if they bring this back, they will have a bit of a problem with the amount of cables we need. And it is not aligned with their supposed new direction of being greener and, giving out less trash and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll see. And RIP touch bar, MacBook Pros may not come back with touch bars. I don't know about, there are some people who love touch bars, but there are some people who don't like it. I prefer not using touch bars because I kind of like to have my hand to have a memory on the kind of buttons that is on the top action bar. And I don't like it if there's a touch bar, it changes all the time. So you always have to go in and look at it and find out what it is and where is everything, which is a bit of a problem. In the desktop scene, there will be silicon chip desktops, refreshed designs that perhaps looks a bit more boxy and smaller bezels. The existing iMac is very, very old with very thick bezels. You put all the bezels in together, you can build a screen out of it. And the chin is very big as well. So they're probably going to emulate the design of their Pro Display XDR with very thin bezels, maybe just a slot at the back for the CPU. There will also be a possible Mac Pro at half the price of the current model. So if it's half the price, that means it will be powered by the M chip, not as powerful, not as expensive, meeting people halfway, and may also come accompanied with a lower price version of their Pro Display XDR as well. Maybe they're gonna call it the less Pro Display XDR. iPhones, yeah, it's an S year, meaning the design will stay, only upgrades internally. They may bring in display fingerprint reader, which is new, but quite necessary because Face ID is quite annoying, especially when you have a mask. So in-display fingerprint reader is good. And I guess the technology has also reached a point where it's becoming safer compared to the first generation ones. There is a possible removal of charging ports. MKBHD believes that it's going to come. Maybe not the S model, maybe iPhone 13, but maybe as soon as this year. There is a possible foldable iPhone. It may not come out in 2021, but it's definitely in their labs right now. I mean, they have actually, I think they have a patent for that as well filed. So they're probably working in the labs and figuring out what is going on and what they can do with it. And I guess at this point, it's just a matter of time when Apple comes out with a foldable phone. Google's purchase of Fitbit is final. Google and Fitbit penned the transaction last year, but the EU regulators pulled the handbrake and investigated all corners of this purchase. It has finally been approved at the price of $2.1 billion. Google says this purchase is about hardware and not data. Google stated that they will not be using all the health data collected by Fitbit for Google's ad tracking. Actually, this was the reason why the purchase took so long, and this was the reason why the purchase was approved by a lot of regulators around the world as well, because Google said they will not use the health data for ad tracking. The antitrust division of the US is still investigating Google's acquisition of Fitbit and if it will harm competition, but it did not block the acquisition at this point. So if at any point they find that there is antitrust and it's going against competition, they might move to file a lawsuit against Google and Fitbit. Well, Google for this matter. Well, because of that, I think a lot of people are not buying Fitbits anymore. I mean, privacy maniacs who are not buying anymore. But I think having Google in the Fitbit game will help Fitbit develop more robust software and maybe make their Wear OS, what is it called? The Android. I don't even remember what's the name called. The Android for watches. I don't remember what's it called already. It's not in my head right now. But in any case, it will make those watches better. So it's good for everybody. Apple blocks side loading of iOS apps on Mac with M1s. Remember, I said that M1 MacBooks will allow Apple to control what apps get downloaded and what don't. It has already begun, right? Apple is not allowing people to sideload iOS apps that are not intended on MacBooks. So the MacBook, one of the key things that MacBook M1 is selling is the ability to actually install apps from the iOS App Store, because essentially they're using the same architecture, right? So ultimately, that's what they're planning. They want to have iOS apps be able to be used on MacBooks. But the problem is that not all the developers have ported or have created a version of the iOS app to work on MacBooks, primarily because iPads and iPhones are touch devices, and Macs are not touch devices. And perhaps Macs will never be touch devices because Apple wants to make sure there is a distinction between the two. So there are people who have been side-loading, which means that they are installing, not from the App Store, iOS apps that are not meant for MacBooks, and Apple is not allowing that to happen. They're specifically blocking it. So it doesn't mean that Mac OS apps can't be side-loaded right now. I mean, you can download apps from anywhere. You can go to a site, let's say DaVinci Resolve, go to your website, download something, and pay them for it. But it is a sign that Apple is planning to lock up all the installs to the App Store only. It is beginning to happen. So soon you can't just go to the website and download something. You have to download everything to the App Store. And if you want to buy something, it will be more expensive because Apple takes 30% cut of every transaction that happens. And if Apple gets aggressive and force apps to come up with a payment system so they can make money, so that will happen as well. So yeah, there is one downside of running MacBooks with M1 processors, which is the eventual control that Apple will have on everyone. There is no tech of the week this week, so we will come back next week for maybe something more amazing. In any case, that's all for Laytechs Weekly this week. Laytechs Weekly is available on Anchor FM, Anchor FM, Overcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and more. Our full videos are available on YouTube, and we post bits and clips on Instagram and Facebook. This is Laytechs Weekly, episode 20th January 2021. My name is Sean. See you next week. Bye.